August 15, 2025, marks 80 years since Japan's surrender ended World War II, a moment that not only closed a devastating chapter in global history, but also set the stage for a new era in East Asia. This date is loaded with meaning for both China and Japan, echoing through generations and shaping the way each nation sees itself and its neighbor. For China, the anniversary marks the end of a brutal conflict that not only shaped its national identity, but also stands at the heart of the Communist Party's narrative, a story of immense suffering, heroic resistance, and ultimate resilience. Each year, the anniversary serves as a powerful reminder of the sacrifices made by millions and is used to reinforce China's legitimacy, unity, and its growing role on the world stage. For Japan, August 15th is a day of solemn remembrance and deep reflection on the devastation of war. It is also a time of national debate over how to remember, how to teach, and how to reconcile with the past. The two countries' differing perspectives on the war continue to fuel diplomatic tensions, shaping not only their modern relationship, but also their interactions on the global stage. Beijing often views Japan's approach to remembrance as a test of sincerity, while Tokyo sometimes feels its repeated apologies and commitment to pacifism go unrecognized or dismissed. These historical wounds remain fresh, influencing everything from territorial disputes and security concerns to economic ties and cultural exchanges. The anniversary is more than a commemoration. It's a moment that compels both nations to confront their identities, their shared history, and the possibilities for their future together. Each year, global attention focuses on how leaders in Beijing and Tokyo mark the occasion, as their words and actions signal the direction of one of Asia's most important and complex relationships. The legacy of World War II is not just history, it's a living force, woven into the fabric of daily life, and continues to shape the actions, attitudes, and aspirations of both China and Japan today. To truly grasp the roots of today's tensions in East Asia, we must journey back to a pivotal moment in history, the conflict that erupted for China in 1937 with the Marco Polo Bridge incident. This seemingly isolated clash would ignite a devastating war that changed the fate of millions. The incident marked the beginning of a full-scale Japanese invasion, as imperial troops poured across the border, overwhelming Chinese defenses and plunging the nation into chaos. Japan's military occupied vast swaths of Chinese territory, inflicting unimaginable suffering, most infamously during the Nanjing Massacre, where hundreds of thousands of civilians were brutally killed, and countless others subjected to atrocities that still haunt collective memory. The war's brutality left deep, lasting scars. Millions perished, millions more were forced from their homes, and entire cities were reduced to rubble. China's economy and infrastructure were shattered, setting back development for decades. This trauma is not just a chapter in history books, it's a living memory, passed down through generations, commemorated in solemn rituals, and woven into the fabric of Chinese society, shaping the nation's collective psyche. The narrative that emerged is one of both victimhood and heroic resistance. Stories of ordinary people and soldiers fighting back against overwhelming odds have become central to modern China's identity, inspiring pride and unity. Today's leaders frequently invoke this legacy, using it to justify calls for national rejuvenation and to assert China's rightful place on the world stage, reminding citizens of the sacrifices that built the nation. The memory of the war is both a source of deep grievance against Japan and a wellspring of national pride, fueling patriotism and a sense of shared destiny. China's refusal to forget is about more than honoring the past. It's about forging strength and unity in the present, ensuring that such suffering is never repeated. The enduring memory of resistance underpins China's posture in both regional disputes and global affairs, shaping its approach to security and diplomacy. For China, the scars of occupation are not just reminders of past pain, they are a call to stand strong, vigilant, and united against any foreign pressure, now and in the future. Japan's 1945 surrender redrew East Asia's map and set the stage for today's disputes. Allied agreements like the Cairo and Potsdam declarations declared Taiwan should return to China, a point Beijing insists is legally binding. After the Chinese Civil War, the defeated nationalists fled to Taiwan, while the PRC claimed sovereignty over the island. The 1951 San Francisco Peace Treaty saw Japan renounce Taiwan, but left its status ambiguous, fueling ongoing debate. Beijing sees any Japanese support for Taiwan as a denial of the post-war order and a challenge to China's sovereignty. The Taiwan issue is thus inseparable from the legacy of World War II and central to China-Japan tensions. For China, history is not settled until Taiwan is reunified. For Beijing, World War II's legacy is inseparable from today's international relations. China demands Japan fully acknowledge its wartime aggression, not just with apologies, but with a genuine shift in attitude. Perceived Japanese revisionism in textbooks or official statements is a constant source of friction. This demand is tied directly to China's core interests, especially its claim over Taiwan. The One China principle, rooted in the war's outcome, is non-negotiable for Beijing. Any Japanese support for Taiwan is seen as a challenge to the historical verdict of 1945. China insists that only by facing history squarely can Japan earn trust and avoid challenging China's rise. For Beijing, history justifies its political goals and the Communist Party's rule. Japan's stance on history is a direct measure of its respect for China's sovereignty. Japan's view of its wartime past is complex and often misunderstood. Official apologies like the 1995 Murayama Statement express remorse for aggression, and Japan's pacifist constitution underscores its commitment to peace. Many Japanese feel the country has atoned and want to move forward, focusing on cooperation and stability. This apology fatigue fuels frustration when China is seen as using history for political leverage. Efforts to revise Japan's constitution or foster national pride are viewed with suspicion by China, seen as signs of resurgent militarism. Within Japan, there's debate over how to balance remembrance with national morale and identity. Conservative voices argue against dwelling on past guilt, while others stress the importance of acknowledging history. This internal debate clashes with China's more unified, state-driven narrative, deepening the gap in understanding. The Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo epitomizes the historical rift between China and Japan. For many Japanese, it's a sacred site honoring war dead. For China and others, it's a symbol of unrepentant militarism, especially since it enshrines convicted war criminals. Visits by Japanese leaders spark fierce protests from Beijing, seen as official endorsement of a revisionist narrative. China views these visits as denying the criminality of Japan's wartime leadership and the suffering inflicted on its neighbors. The controversy leads to diplomatic fallout and surges in anti-Japanese sentiment. Japanese politicians defend the visits as cultural tradition, but for China, it's about historical justice, not religion. As long as war criminals are honored there, Yasukuni remains a potent obstacle to reconciliation. The shrine is a stark reminder of the unresolved legacy of the war. China skillfully weaves historical grievances into its diplomatic messaging, especially around major anniversaries. Whenever Japan boosts its defense or speaks on Taiwan, China invokes the past to question Japan's intentions and warn neighbors. This rhetoric isolates Japan and casts its security moves as echoes of past aggression. On Taiwan, China frames Japanese involvement as neo-imperial meddling, delegitimizing Tokyo's position. Domestically, this narrative boosts patriotism and support for the leadership. Internationally, it positions China as the moral guardian against a supposedly unrepentant Japan. By linking every Japanese action to history, China keeps Tokyo on the defensive and under pressure. Japan has been strengthening its defense in response to a changing security landscape, including China's military rise and North Korea's unpredictability. Tokyo sees these moves as necessary and defensive, but Beijing views them as a return to militarism. Chinese officials argue Japan is using the China threat to justify breaking free from post-war constraints. Japan's acquisition of long-range missiles and collective self-defense capabilities alarms China, blurring the line between defense and offense. Beijing worries these capabilities could be used in a Taiwan conflict, threatening Chinese interests. Even Japan's pacifist rhetoric is met with skepticism in China, which questions the need for such military power. This mutual mistrust creates a security dilemma, with each side's defensive moves seen as provocative by the other. The result is a cycle of tension and military buildup in the region. The United States is a pivotal, complicating factor in China-Japan relations. Its presence in the region is both stabilizing and, at times, a source of tension, shaping the dynamics between these two Asian powers in profound ways. The US-Japan Security Treaty underpins Japan's defense and deters aggression, providing a security umbrella that reassures Tokyo. However, Beijing sees this alliance as a lingering Cold War relic, designed to contain China's growing influence and limit its regional ambitions. The US actively encourages Japan to take on a greater security role in the region, supporting its military modernization and strategic initiatives. China, however, views this as emboldening nationalist elements within Japan and as a direct challenge to its own rise in security interests. The Taiwan issue further intensifies this dynamic. Recent US and Japanese statements emphasizing Taiwan's security have alarmed Beijing, which sees any foreign involvement in Taiwan as a threat to its sovereignty and a red line not to be crossed. In response, China has issued strong warnings to Japan, urging it not to deepen security ties with the US, especially when it comes to sensitive issues like Taiwan. Beijing's rhetoric has grown sharper, reflecting its deep concerns. The future of Sino-Japanese relations increasingly hinges on US actions in the region. Closer US-Japan ties could further strain relations with Beijing, making diplomatic breakthroughs more difficult and increasing the risk of miscalculation. If US commitment to Japan's security were to waver, Tokyo might feel compelled to accelerate its own military buildup, seeking greater self-reliance. This prospect is also deeply worrying to China, which fears a remilitarized Japan. The central question remains, can China and Japan manage their historical grievances and ongoing competition, or will the weight of the past and intensifying great power rivalry drive them even further apart, risking instability in the region? The path to reconciliation is long, uncertain, and fraught with obstacles. It will require patience, dialogue, and a willingness to compromise from all sides. The legacy of World War II, amplified by current rivalries and unresolved tensions, continues to shape Asia's future, reminding all parties that history is never far from the present.